Hello, 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 and welcome! I'm Amber. Today, I'd like to talk about the first 3 books I read in 2019. Now, these books, I'm trying out mini reviews, so this video is very experimental for me, so I'm seeing how I like it, seeing how I want to do it in the future. Bear with me. The first book I read in 2019 was, of course, In an Absent Dream by Seanan McGuire. This is the 4th installment in the Wayward Children series. It's fantastic. I loved it. It's not my favorite of the series, but I loved learning about the goblin market and learning about fair trade and what something costs and what we're willing to pay. And I loved learning about her relationship with her family and like what makes you click with another world. And Lundy is fortunate that she went to a world that you can go between it and your home on Earth as many times as you want before you turn 18. When you turn 18, you have to choose whether you become a citizen of the goblin market or you stay in Earth. And I love that hers is a generational portal, so you get to see her relationship with her father who went before her. You get to see her relationship with the people that are there now, and just, it's a great mixture world. It's a very great mixture portal. I am still shaky on goblin markets and the rules, but I loved how it was represented in an Absent Dream, for sure. The cover is beautiful. Of course, why wouldn't it be? It's gorgeous. It's stunning. The second book I read in January was actually quite a bit of a disappointment. I was super frustrated with it, and it took me way too long to read. And it's The Lost World by Crichton. This is the second book. Jurassic Park is probably one of my all-time favorite books. Favorites. But this was frustrating. Now, I love Jeff Goldblum, and I thought his character in The Lost World, the movie, was fantastic. He was useful. In the book, he's useless. Like, when they get to the island, there's a lot of, like, academia, like, spewing back and forth. Like, he and Dr. Levine are doing a lot of monologuing. At that point, I was just like, I just want something to happen. Like, yeah, you're injured and now you're just like living off morphine and you're letting everybody else take care of you. That frustrated me. And Levine, the fact that Levine is a super intelligent genius, but he's great at observing, terrible in emergency situations. And when dinosaurs are involved, like, it's gonna quickly turn into an emergency situation. And he was useless. Of course, people were eaten. Of course. But anyway, this is quite different from the movie, too, I should say. I prefer the movie. Sorry. Jurassic Park, I love both the book and the movie. But Sarah Harding, another one of my favorite female characters. Just, she's lovely. She's a scientist. She's out in the field, she's quick on her feet, she's a quick thinker, she adapts to emergency situations, she is useful. She's like the only reason they get out alive. Her and Doc Thorne. Her racing around on a motorcycle was, not gonna lie, really attractive. Like, I was like, I wanna be her. Like, I want to be Sarah Harding. Like, I want to be that badass. Like, I want to be that tough and that reliable. And I want to be able to be in that situation where I could just, like, be on an adventure. I don't want to be chased by dinosaurs. But I appreciated that there wasn't that, oh, I'm a weak, helpless woman. Like, I got myself in this situation. Like, no. No. Sarah Harding is amazing and fantastic and wonderful. Full stop. Also, Doc Thorne was pretty fantastic. And the kids, I liked the kids. They were okay. They gave it a good flavor. But format of this book, it took way too long to get to the island. And then once we were on the island and it picked up, like, that was fine and it was enjoyable. But it was like the first 150 pages, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to read. Like, if I was following certain people's rules for, do I DNF this or not, by the 100 page mark, I would have DNF'd this. But the fact that it's the Jurassic Park sequel, I was like, I've got to stick with it. I got to see how it goes out. I got to see how my man Ian Malcolm goes. We all know how that turned out. But all in all, I'm glad I own this. Will I ever reread it? Maybe now that I know what's in store, I might just pick apart the pieces that I like. But I love the first book, and I reread that regularly, so it's a toss-up. The third book that I've read this year is The Solace of Open Spaces by Gretel Ehrlich. Now, I don't know where I heard about this book, but my library had it, and I had it on my electronic TBR, and so I was like, it's not too long, I'll try it. It's a series of personal essays. It's nonfiction, and it's atmospheric. Like, I felt like I was in Wyoming. I felt like I was out on the plains herding sheep. I was, caught in that thunderstorm trying to get the cattle, to do whatever. I don't know the terms. Like, I spent a few days reading this book, and I still don't know the terms. Like, it's not a big deal. But I loved the people and the relationships that she talked about. I loved her writing. Like, this is some beautiful writing. Like, I found myself just savoring sentences. I found myself reading paragraphs again and again just so I could rehear just the poetic beauty of it. I found myself writing down quotes. I found myself laughing. I found myself heartbroken. There were a few problems with this. There's no linearity. There's no timeline. There's no real cohesion to when things happen. So I found myself like, wait, is this before or after, Jack dies? Or what is his name? Grady. Is this before or after Keith dies? Is this before or after, whatever. I can't remember all their names. Forgive me. She name drops, like, a lot of people. There are a lot of people. Yeah. Anyway, so when people die, or when she'd talk about, a ranch going under, and then later on mention the same name, I'd be like, wait, was this before or after? And she mentions, her husband dies, but then in a later section, early on, she mentions that. And then later on, there's a section on marriage. And so I'm like, wait, is this a remarry? Is this the guy who ends up dying? Like, so there's no real timeline to it, so I don't know when things are happening. But that wasn't much of a drawback. It was just towards the end that I was like, when did this happen? And I don't know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to her adventures. I enjoyed listening to her thoughts on, like, isolation and community, but also, like, the pettiness and the grudges and the, the hard-nosed stubbornness, of small town and of, like, ranchers and whatnot. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. I kind of want to own it. Just so I can go back and read those beautiful passages, and I can tab it up, and I can mark my favorite lines. There's this one line, Rusty the dog John and I quarreled over, and whose custody I won, was my only companion. I played Scrabble with him every night, and he won. I died laughing. I was laughing so hard. And then I had to find my husband. I said, honey, you gotta listen to this. And I read it. And of course he's just like, that's great, hon, oh, funny. But, I was dying laughing. I was like, she plays Scrabble with her dog. at the same, like, it wasn't a pathetic, like, I'm laughing at you. It was like, that's so endearing. Like, that's adorable. I loved it. But yes, anyway, The Solace of Open Spaces. Really loved it. Might own it someday. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so that's everything I've read so far. I am a little behind on my goals. I have been reading pretty slowly, but that's okay. That's okay. I find with things like The Solace of Open Spaces, when it's a series of essays, I don't want to just pile it all on, because then the beautiful writing just runs together and it doesn't mean anything. It's just, it kind of just turns into, I didn't want to, like, this all to run together and just be like, beautiful writing! I don't know what happened, you know? So, yeah, that was good. I'm super excited about what I'm reading next. It's A Whole Life by Robert Seathaler, translated by Charlotte Collins. Now, this is a novel, but this also talks about connection to the land and connection to the nature. And I wanted to read this one and A Solace of Open Spaces together because I really want that atmospheric read. I really want to feel that intimacy in the writing. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!